Hello, third graders. This is lesson 7, Birds, Wings, and Feathers, in our unit on the classification of animals. So if you remember, we talked about this mnemonic device that helps us remember our different groups of vertebrates in the animal kingdom, right? It's all my best friends represent vertebrates. A is for amphibians, M is for mammals, B is for birds, F is for fish, R is for reptiles, and V is for vertebrates. The sixth letter and word helps to make this memory aid make sense, right? Because we remember that they are vertebrates. All my best friends represent vertebrates. I breathe oxygen using lungs, have hard, scaly skin, and lay eggs in nests. Some examples of animals that are in my group are lizards and snakes. What group of animals am I? Reptiles. I do not have a spine, and I am the group that makes up most of the animals on Earth, including insects, arachnids, crustaceans, and many other types of animals. What group of animals am I? I'm the invertebrates. At the beginning of my life, I am an aquatic animal and breathe using gills, but as I grow, I slowly develop lungs and morph into a water and land animal. What group of animals am I? Amphibians. I have 3 classes: bony, cartilaginous, and jawless, and I'm cold-blooded. What group of animals am I? Well, that one's slightly hard. Remember, there was bony, cartilaginous, and jawless fish. I am a classification of animals that is made up of amphibians, mammals, birds, fish, and reptiles that all have backbones. What groups of animals am I? They're all vertebrates. Good job. Close your eyes and picture a bird you've seen or heard, whether it was in a picture, a movie or show, or on a hike in your backyard. Now, think about what you know about birds. Make a list of what their characteristics are in your head. How would you describe birds? Well, we're going to learn a lot more about birds today. Hello folks, it's me, Rattenborough, once again. If you recall, you learned all about reptiles last time. How exciting that was! Can you remember which group of animals you were going to hear about today? That's right, birds. I can't wait to tell you all about my friend Ebenezer. I met him on the continent of Africa. Before I tell you about him, I thought we would begin today's lesson by quickly reviewing how Polo, Tabitha, and Anna are related to each other. Remember, just because they don't look the same, they do have quite a bit in common, beginning with the fact they are all members of the animal kingdom. I brought along special diagrams of their skeletons to help you. Can you tell which skeleton belongs to each animal? What common characteristic is visible in all 3? Yes, all 3 of them have backbones, so you probably recall scientists classify them as, yes, vertebrates. We're not going to spend much time talking about their internal body temperature today. By now, you should know that none of them have constant body temperatures. Polo, Tabitha, and Anna are all cold-blooded, and their temperature changes depending on their surroundings. That makes 2 characteristics that all 3 of them hold in common: the fact that they are all vertebrates and the fact that they are all cold-blooded animals. So now let's see where Ebenezer egret fits in. We know that he belongs to the animal group classified as birds. Let's confirm it. Are birds vertebrates? Indeed, they are. Ebenezer has a strong backbone that reaches all the way up his long neck and supports his head. His bony skeleton is very important. His bones are extremely light with lots of air cavities or hollow places inside them to help him fly. He uses his muscular legs to push off the ground, and then his wings take over. The weight and arrangement of his bones, help him soar through the air. Look at all those crevices in that bone. That's pretty cool. Almost hollow. Birds are the lucky ones, aren't they? Many of you have many sorry. How many of you have ever wished that you could fly? I do like very much being a rat, but sometimes I think it would be great fun to fly. Ebenezer is very graceful, isn't he? So far you have learned in detail just about cold-blooded animals, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. Do you think Ebenezer and all birds are cold-blooded too? Scientists classify birds as warm-blooded because their internal body temperature remains constant no matter where they fly. Birds have several characteristics that enable them to fly, but being warm-blooded is essential to flight. They have a very high metabolism, as only warm-blooded animals do. Metabolism is the process which produces energy in most animals' bodies. When we speak about the high metabolism of birds, we are speaking about the fact they have a steady flow of energy that helps them maintain the high level activity required by flight. The higher the activity level of an animal, the higher its metabolism is likely to be. What this means when it comes to eating is that they need lots of food to maintain that energy. Have you ever heard the saying, eats like a bird, for someone who eats very small amounts of food at one time? Ebenezer told me that an important thing to remember about this expression is that it does not mean that birds do not eat very much. In fact, Ebenezer and birds like him need to eat 2 times their body weight in food every day because they have such a high metabolism and burn lots more energy than most animals. If you needed the same amount of food in a day that a bird needs, you'd be eating about 100 pounds of food every day. Of course, there are lots of small meals a day for birds, quite unlike an anaconda, who sometimes eats only one big meal in a period of many days. Someone who eats like a bird is usually someone who picks at their food and only eats small bites at a time. They might eat a lot, just not a lot at a time. What is the primary source of energy for organisms like you and me? Where do we get our energy? Where does it come from? It comes from the sun. You may have learned about food chains and cycles in nature. You may learn more about food chains in the grade 3 ecology domain. Green plants capture the sun's energy and it is transferred to animals when they eat plants or plant-eating animals. Energy from the sun powers everything we do on Earth. Unlike cold-blooded animals that depend upon their surroundings to regulate internal body temperatures, warm-blooded animals are able to produce heat for energy within their own bodies. They can travel farther and live in more extreme conditions than cold-blooded animals. However, because cold-blooded animals have a much lower metabolism, they do not need as much energy to stay alive. Remember what I just said about the eating habits of Ebenezer compared to Anna? The only warm-blooded animals that are able to go without food for long periods of time are hibernating animals. That's because their metabolism slows way down when they are hibernating, and they require less energy to stay alive. Like all birds, Ebenezer is warm-blooded, and he's a vertebrate with lightweight bones to help him fly. Look at this image and describe some other physical characteristics that help scientists classify Ebenezer as a bird. Good eyes, boys and girls. Let's begin with his wings. Ebenezer has wings, and wings are essential to flight. The shape of a bird's wings determines how far and high a bird can fly, in addition to its lightweight bones. You just heard about the bones in birds' wings. Who can tell me what helps to make a bird's wings lightweight? If you remember, there's cavities or hollow spaces. There's those holes in a bird's bones to make it lightweight. Look at this picture of an American bald eagle. His long, broad wings are built so that he can glide or move smoothly and continuously. He can soar great distances, traveling up to 65 miles per hour. Compare the eagle's wings to the tiny, tapered wings of the hummingbird, one of the smallest birds on earth. When something is tapered, it becomes gradually smaller or thinner on one end. His wings beat rapidly, 20 or more beats per second, as he hovers or floats and flutters in midair. What else helps Ebenezer and all birds fly? Feathers are a great help, serving as lightweight coverings for their wings. They mesh together as their wings flap downward, parting again to let air through as their wings swing upward again. Feathers also act as insulation. Insulation is an extra layer that protects birds' skin from the sun and traps in heat, providing energy and warmth in the winter months. The point of the feathers, where it is attached to a bird's body, is called the quill. So you can see in this picture, people in the past used quills as a writing tool, kind of like a pen. They would dip it in the ink, then write on paper. All birds have feathers. No other animals do. So if you spot a feathered friend, you may assume that it's a bird. Because their precious feathers take quite a beating, birds take good care of them and often preen them or make them neat with their beaks to keep them clean, waterproof, and in the right position. Take a look at Ebenezer's beak. Isn't it a beauty? Not all birds have such long beaks. Why do you think his is so long? Well, I'll tell you. He told me it's a terrific hunting weapon. He uses the end of his beak to grab small prey such as snails and crayfish in the surface waters of the marshland, and to spear larger prey such as frogs and snakes on marshy wetlands. Appearing in many different shapes and sizes, beaks are often used to identify birds. Their main function is for feeding, so a bird's beak can provide scientists with clues to a bird's eating habits. Take a look at the finch's beak. So that's the one in the middle on the top. Do you think this little beak can spear an animal the way an egret's beak can? No. Depending upon where you live, you may have seen a finch at your bird feeder. They use their beaks to crack open seeds. Next time you see a bird, look at its beak and see if you can guess whether it eats fish, seeds, insects, mice, or nectar. How would you describe the features of the beaks in this picture? What do you think these birds use their beaks for? Birds' feet are another clue to different bird habitats and lifestyles. Hawks have long talons or claws to catch their prey. Waders have long legs. Woodpeckers have feet adapted to climbing trees. Perching birds have single hind or rear toes for grasping branches. And ducks and geese have webbed feet for swimming. Remember you heard in a previous read aloud that a particular animal has webbing between its claws? Who can tell me which reptile that is? You're right, the pond turtle. Animals with webbed feet have a layer of skin between each of their toes. Birds are the only group of animals that give birth by only one means. There are fascinating pattern breakers in all of the other groups, but all birds lay eggs. Their eggs are yolk-filled and have hard, calcified shells. You learned in the last read aloud that reptile eggs are often calcified. Who can tell me what calcified means? It means it has a hard shell, right? It has calcium in it. They need to be incubated or kept warm, so the parents sit on them until they hatch. That can be dangerous because sitting birds are prime targets for predators. Most birds prepare a nest or shelter for their young, using whatever materials are available to them in nature. Some make nests from twigs and straw, others build nests of mud. Woodpeckers create cavities in trees, whereas kingfishers bore into riverbanks. These nests provide safe havens or safe places, protecting both eggs and baby chicks from harsh weather and animal predators. Some birds, like chickens, are able to see, walk, and feed themselves almost immediately after hatching. However, many birds are born in a very immature stage and require a lengthy period of parental care. So their mommies have to take care of them, and daddies. We spent lots of time today talking about what helps birds fly: strong muscles, light bones, powerful wings, and airy feathers. But did you know that in spite of having all these things in common, some birds are unable to fly? Flightless birds include the largest bird on Earth, the ostrich. With a 7-foot wingspan, it seems odd that ostriches can't fly. But they hold records for being both the fastest bird on land and the fastest two-legged animal on Earth, able to run up to 40 miles per hour. Australian emus, also large and flightless, look a lot like ostriches and often travel long distances to find food. Penguins are perhaps the most endearing or affection-inspiring of all flightless birds, marching upright like people as they move around in their habitats. These aquatic birds of the southern hemisphere waddle along on their short legs and webbed feet down to the sea. Their wings serve as flippers to carry them swiftly through Arctic waters, traveling up to 15 miles per hour. What other animals have you learned about that swim through water? We've learned about fish, turtles, salamanders, crocodiles, alligators. Who can tell me the body parts that help these animals swim effectively? Well, some of them have tails, fins, webbing in their feet, oar-shaped feet, and now the penguins have their flippers. Birds live all over the world, in cool, wet rainforests, along ocean shores, in dark, dense evergreens, in hot, dry deserts, and on the banks of lakes, rivers, and streams. Some travel long distances, migrating to warmer homes in winter, whereas others are homebodies, never straying very far from where they were born. Some can swim and others can fly. Some enchant us with their songs, whereas others shout, caw, caw. Birds come in all different shapes and sizes, but all birds are warm-blooded, egg-laying vertebrates with feathers and wings. Birds are very different from the animals we will study next. So far you've learned about fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. What do you suppose is next? I'll give you a hint. They're hairy and warm-blooded, and you may just find you know more about them than you think you know. Thank you for being such good listeners. I will see you very soon. All right, so we learned all about birds. Birds live all over the world in different habitats. What are some of these habitats? Where do birds live? They live in hot, dry deserts, cool, wet forests, dense evergreens, near lakes, rivers, streams, and oceans. What body parts do birds have that enable them to fly? What helps them fly? Their wings, right? Bird bones have lots of cavities in them, which helps make them lighter and able to fly. What are cavities? Hopefully you've never had a cavity in your teeth, have you? Maybe you have. They're hollow places in the bones, so cavities in your teeth are hollow holes in your teeth. What is the job of the feathers on birds? They provide insulation and waterproofing to protect skin and trap heat. They help them fly by being lightweight and by meshing together and parting, which pushes against air and then lets it through. In addition to cavities in their bones, birds must also have a high metabolism in order to fly. Why is a high metabolism important for birds? Well, it provides a steady flow of energy in order for them to be highly active. Describe the difference between the way a hummingbird flies and an eagle flies. How are they different? A hummingbird beats its wings very, very fast. An eagle glides and soars, slowly gliding with its wings. What would you say is the cause of these two different types of flight? What is the cause? Large broad wings on the eagle compared to tiny tapered wings on a hummingbird. Their wings are very different sizes. Why do birds build nests? For protection for their young and for homes. What are the different types of nests you heard about? There's twig and straw, mud, cavities in trees, holes in riverbanks. In one or two sentences, write the characteristics that classify an animal as a bird. Tell me, what are the characteristics that classify an animal as a bird? All right. Compare and contrast the various kinds of bird feet with turtle or tortoise feet. Some bird feet that are similar to turtle or tortoise feet are the webbed feet and the feet for climbing, which are similar to the webbed feet of pond turtles and clawed feet of the giant tortoise. Some birds that have feet that are different than turtles and tortoises are those with talons. A friend tells you that an ostrich is not a bird because it cannot fly. How would you convince your friend that an ostrich is a bird? Well, it's a warm-blooded vertebrate with feathers and wings. They make nests and lay eggs. And it can still be a bird even if it's a pattern breaker, even if it has something that's a little different. Compare a penguin's wings to the wings of other birds that can fly. Compare it to fish's fins, right? They're very different, aren't they? So, compared to other birds, penguins' wings are more like flippers, right? And they help them swim just like a fish's fins help it swim. Let's compare and contrast birds and fish. How are they similar? How are they different? Our word today is metabolism. In the read aloud, you heard that warm-blooded animals have a very high metabolism. Say the word metabolism. Metabolism is the process in living animals whereby energy is made from cells in the body as they are produced and as they break down. The higher the activity level of an animal, the higher its metabolism is likely to be. All right, so you have a metabolism, right? If you are maybe really skinny, you might have heard someone say, wow, you must have a high metabolism, especially as you get older. Kids seem to have a better metabolism than adults, right? So metabolism is just when your energy is breaking down what you've eaten and the fat in your body, it's breaking it down and using it for energy. So there'd be less fat in your body and you'd be using it as energy if you have a high metabolism. All right. Good job, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about birds.